You ever see a game that's cover is so mediocre that you wonder why people say don't judge a book by its cover when you should say don't judge a game by its cover, since there's way more crap out there? Video games almost universally make the worst first impression, so I don't know why I was so incensed by the 5 out of 10 cover art for the new Pokemon Snap game. Like, I guess it's fine, it has images of things that are in the game, but there's no vibe, there's no atmosphere, there's no narrative to it. It's cold and disposable. Let me break down why. So a lot of it stems from the logo. There are 3 different fonts used here. Granted, one of them is the Pokemon font, but you don't need to add to the problem, guys. Seriously, it looks like a ransom note. It's then got this random Pokeball down in the corner here. I don't even think Pokeballs are in Pokemon Snap, so I don't really know what it's doing there other than just being like, hey, look, a thing you know. Snap is in all caps, and while you might think that's kind of good because that's the title of the game, it's actually bad, and I'll come back to it later. Also, snap is a verb, a noun, and onomatopoeia in this game. It's kind of crazy to think about. So there's no use of a film roll in any of this art or logo, and that's probably because it's old tech, but they're using Polaroids up here, so I don't really understand what the logic is there. They don't want to use the thing that is functionally and mechanically relevant to the game, but they want to use this thing that is kind of cool and hip with kids. So they've got this safari pattern going on down here that you might have missed because it's so subtle, and it kind of struck me as weird because Pokemon is inherently a safari. I don't need you to like put me in that mood. It's about going out into the wilderness and finding cool creatures, so a bit redundant. Every piece of text also has 2 borders because of this stupid wood thing. It just kind of makes it look like you've squished it into a big lump of dough or something. The word new... I don't think I really need to justify my hatred of this. I think people have been doing that since New Super Mario Brothers. So let's just leave it as, yeah, it's dumb. Because of the word new being in the title, the whole logo is now unbalanced, and that just knocks the whole thing off center and will annoy you forever once you realize it. They've got this wood grain thing going on. Wood grain has too many connotations. I think farming and rural when it's outdoors. When it's indoors, it kind of means like bespoke, expensive furniture. Doesn't really mean wilderness or safari in this context. It kind of would have been better if they'd used a wood, like a bark texture or something, or just use nothing. I don't think you need it. This camera up the top doesn't really look like a camera, at least not a camera that any professional photographer would use. It's also got this weird lens flare going on, and any professional photographer who is taking photos for a scientific journal would be avoiding lens flares like the plague. And then finally, there's no focus in the environment, on searching the natural habitats of these Pokemon, just in the entire box art. So with all that said, I want to propose a new logo. Now, I spent a couple of hours mocking this up, but before you leap to the defense of the multi-billion-dollar corporation, just hear me out. Here's my logo. It uses 2 fonts. I'm willing to accept that the Pokemon logo can't change at this point. That's fine, but you can minimize the amount of damage that it's doing to the logo. The Pokeball is used as a symbol on this map pin, rather than just being the object of a Pokeball. This is pretty common in the Pokemon world. A lot of things use that design, like on clothing or whatever. Snap is not in all caps. I mentioned this earlier, so things become a lot harder to read at a glance when you write them in all caps. It definitely aids the onomatopoeia because I can kind of rotate these like letters around and they'll still sort of look nice because they're more rounded than if I was just going to use their capitals. So Pokemon 2 Snap is the biggest change I made. It removes the new, but it also makes snap a verb, which indicates what you're going to be doing in this game. The film roll that's behind everything, it suggests an expert photographer, someone who really knows what they're doing and like refuses to use just like convenient modern technology, preferring to use something that they know is good. It's actually used in the logo, not just the box art, as opposed to the Polaroids in their version of the art, which were just sort of like in the background. The game will almost certainly have a film roll counter used to count how many photos you have left, which I think makes much more sense if it's a physical roll of film that you're using rather than just a digital camera, which can take like thousands of photographs at a time. So there's no safari pattern in this. Pokemon is always a safari, and the box art having lots of Pokemon that you have to search for, like behind trees and things, that's kind of what you're going to be doing in the game, and that indicates safari. So there you go. You don't need a safari pattern when you've got Pokemon and wilderness you can just use. There's no wood grain used. Instead, I used the colors and the shapes of the original game's logo to create a sense of nostalgia. And on top of that, now the logo is balanced. This camera lens is actually incorporated into the logo, and it looks like a professional camera, not just like a $75 2x digital zoom from 2005. And finally, I've got a focus on the environment, which really pulls you in with its perspective and shows the world that you'll get to move through and explore. So though I couldn't quite picture it, I remembered the original game having a cool logo, but it turns out it kind of didn't. It just had this weird box art with the Pokemon coming out of the camera lens. I think this is testament to the basic strength of like the camera as a symbol in our culture. So think about what I said earlier, right? I figure the camera should have been incorporated into the logo itself. It makes sense. Sure, physical film might be a bit old school, but all cameras still have lenses, so those haven't changed. So it's weird they didn't use that symbol more. Even in the original game's art, yeah, there was the main box art, but then there was like ancillary things like this novelization, and the title screen didn't have anything to kind of indicate what Snap meant. It could have been like a card game of like Snap. But why this, like, to be honest, largely inoffensive logo and box art irked me so much is kind of hard to pin down. Like, I guess I was into the original game, but there's more to it than that. I think the concept of Pokemon Snap, the original Pokemon Snap, was a lot bigger in the minds of kids back in the 90s than the actual game itself. It expanded the scope and the possibilities of the world of Pokemon in a way that felt exciting and more in line with the anime, which is how most of us got into the franchise to begin with. Conceptually, I think Pokemon Snap is the truest representation of the franchise. Like, it's an expedition to catalog strange and wonderful creatures. In the original red and blue versions of the game, Professor Oak tells you that you treated your Pokemon as friends, whereas your rival treated your Pokemon as machines of war. This never really made sense to me because there's literally nothing you can do with your Pokemon in those games except battle. Pokemon Snap was the first game where Oak's words of praise made sense. It was a game of doing more with Pokemon than just battling. And I think it deserves more credit for solidifying those themes of friendship, knowledge, and respect that the series carries with it to this day. So wrapping up, games are an amazing medium that deserve at the very least the same level of artistry in their covers as Mills and Boon novels. There's an easy fix too. Games review outlets just start docking points off the score for bad cover art. I think it's fair since I spend more time looking at this thing sitting on my shelf than I do actually playing it. So, I don't know, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, bye.